Michel Desmarquet was born in 1931 in Normandy, in the northern part of France. From childhood, he did not like the cool, cloudy, and rainy weather in Normandy and dreamed of living in warm countries. When he was 16, France was recruiting for its military in Central Africa. Michel abandoned the agricultural school in which he studied and very cleverly forced his parents to agree for him to join military in Africa as an underage recruit. After the first day of drills, Michel realized that he had made a mistake. When the general arrived to inspect the recruits, Michel ran out of line, shook the general's hand, and announced loudly that he wanted to go home. Everyone present burst out laughing because they had never seen anything like that before. Michel, with the help of his innate sense of humor, spoiled military discipline as much as he could, and no disciplinary punishment had the intended effect. France then waged a war in Vietnam and recruited Africans to fight for them in Vietnam. When Michel was sent to a military prison where African natives were guards, he learned several local dialects. This skill allowed him to systematically spoil the plans of recruiting Africans to the French army in Vietnam with great success. After nearly 2 years of Michel's hilarious antics in the army, the French general in charge of the army invited Michel to his office and asked Michel what he wanted to stop disrupting discipline. Michel said, "I want to go home, of course," but the general explained that it was not legally possible. Also, Michel spent most of his first 2 years of army service in jail, and the general explained that time in army jail did not count as the time of service. Michel then said, "I want to grow vegetables for the army." The general agreed, allocated a plot of land in the countryside away from the garrison, and employed several locals to help Michel cultivate the land. Michel regained his freedom. He could go out of the garrison any time he wanted, for as long as he wanted to supervise his vegetable plantation. Soon the plantation produced more vegetables that the army needed, and Michel, with help of the locals and his knowledge of local dialects, was selling excess of vegetables on local markets. By the time he finished his military service, Michel had enough money to buy a large share of a coffee plantation in Africa and became a plantation manager. He was 20. After leaving Africa and a brief period in France, Michel moved to New Caledonia in the Pacific Ocean. In New Caledonia, Michel grew tomatoes. He then moved to Australia. He eventually settled on a farm on the edge of the tropical jungle near Cairns, built a cyclone-proof house there, and helped Australians maintain their tropical gardens, calling himself a landscape architect. Michel was chosen in June 1987 to make an interstellar journey through our galaxy, visit the planet Thiaoouba, and report what he saw and heard without distortion. People of Thiaoouba entrusted Michel a mission to write a book describing his visit to Thiaoouba, containing the message of Thiaoouba to the present inhabitants of Earth. After returning to Earth, Michel encountered numerous difficulties. Since he has never written anything in his life except letters to his parents, it took him almost 3 years to write a book by hand in French under the telepathic guidance of Thiaoouba, his mentor from Thiaoouba. Further difficulties arose after the book was translated into English and printed. In 1995, Michel funded the printing of 10,000 books in the U.S., but no bookstore wanted to sell them. In 1996, Michel abandoned the entire print run in the USA because the printing house wanted a monthly fee for storing books. In Australia, the first print run was sold in 1993, but no bookstore wanted to sell the second print. Almost no one on Earth believed Michel, and Michel became depressed. After his return to Earth, 2 consecutive wives left him, and in 2000, Michel decided to completely abandon his mission along with the book, go to Vietnam to marry for a 3rd time. When Michel decided to abandon his book and go to Vietnam in 2000, he offered to sell Tom Chalco the rights to the English edition of Thiaoouba Prophecy. Tom Chalco agreed to take on the obligation of publishing the book, but only on the condition that Tom Chalco could make the entire book available for free download on the Internet. Before Michel left for Vietnam, Tom Chalco suggested that all translations of the Thiaoouba Prophecy book should be made directly from his handwritten French manuscript. However, Michel responded that after all the work they had done to correct the English translation, all other translations should be made from this corrected English version. Michel passed away in Vietnam on July 9, 2018. Many people believe Michel was a great man, and indeed, he wrote Thiaoouba Prophecy and did his best to promote the book. However, throughout the years since its publication, the book has had very little impact. Even Michel himself had already sold the right to the book. Some say Michel failed to successfully promote the book, but Michel's mission was never to make the book widely read. His task was to write the book. The people of Thiaoouba never demanded that he must promote it successfully. Michel was just an ordinary earth human. He was a very competent, even outstanding messenger. He was the messenger of Thiaoouba. He loved to drink, and sometimes he may have made mistakes. After all, he was just a regular person. Also, I must emphasize, although Michel wrote Thiaoouba Prophecy, his role was more like a messenger than an author. This is important to remember. The key information in the book was taught to him by the people of Thiaoouba, and that information is what truly matters. Since Michel did not successfully promote Thiaoouba Prophecy, does that mean there's no hope for its future dissemination? Don't worry. Here is a dialogue in the book. Michel said, "I will argue no further, Thao. If this is your decision, I can only yield to it. I hope I will be equal to the task. Have you considered that 99% of people will not believe a word of what I say? For most people, it will be too incredible." Thao said, "Michel, almost 2,000 years ago, did they believe that Christ was sent by God, as he claimed? Certainly not, for they wouldn't have crucified him had they believed. Now, however, there are millions who believe what he said." From this dialogue, we can understand that Thiaoouba already have a plan for the dissemination of the book. We don't need to worry at all.